welcome to Fiber Trek. My name is Sarah. Welcome. You are most welcome to my studio space here in the Northwoods of Maine. On this edition, I will be sharing with you some of my explorations into essential oil blending. I want to share with you some books that I've added to my bookshelf, as well as all of the knitting that's been happening. If you are a patron of this podcast or have made a financial contribution through Ko-Fi, I am so deeply grateful. As always, the insight, comments, subscriptions, and shares are much appreciated on this creative journey. I'm so glad that you're here. Let's catch up. I've mentioned here that I am getting ready to commit to another Marie Wallin knit from her book Shetland, which is the Yell cardigan. And recently I did a Patreon vlog looking at how I have decided to choose my own color story for that cardigan. I do find some of her work to be overwhelming because she has such a beautiful sense of color sense, blending hot and medium values and dark values, and her blending just really is exquisite. And I didn't want to get into a situation where I was like, I like this color, and this color, and try to put that together. So I opted to create a framework around the idea of perfume. You could do this, I'm sure, with other art forms, but this was kind of fun. And I love the idea of pulling in a different sensory experience into my knitting. I kind of detailed how I put together a mood board. I used some watercolor swatches to narrow things down, look at color stories that I like, pull from what inspired me in those. And then from that, I kind of took my idea for a perfume of what I wanted the sense of this, the essence, the evocative feeling of this cardigan to be, and I put together a perfume recipe or blend. And I knew that it was going to be spicy and earthy, and so based on that, I kind of went in and I decided on my sweater I was going to use Morit, which is a very dark brown, and kind of a vanilla esket color for the contrast. And based on my base note idea of brown or Morit, I went and took into account some of the more earthy and spicy base notes. And so I landed on patchouli and cedar, Atlas cedarwood. So those were my two base notes. And to move into that kind of theme of spice and earth and slightly, I use the word exotic loosely here, but just something like a je ne sais quoi about what you're experiencing. I added cardamom and cinnamon bark as my middle notes. And so I think what we'll find is that those medium values, those middle notes of the sweater are going to end up being in that kind of rusty, cinnamony, orangey tones, something rich. And then for my top notes, my highlights, I opted for bergamot and lemon. So something of a burst that's refreshing, that hits very quickly. That's kind of, you know, the vocabulary I was using to think about what do I want those the first impression, the first colors to come to the surface to be. And so by kind of using that framework, I was able to look at colors and pull them together in a way that I felt mirrored the sense, the scent sense. So like I said, what I ended up with was a base note of the patchouli and the Atlas cedarwood, and then my middle notes, cardamom and cinnamon bark, and my top notes were bergamot and lemon. And I used Mountain Rose Herbs, has a really nice blog post on ratio and dilution and how to kind of create these blends. And I used that to kind of pull together my idea, and I used a base of fractionated coconut oil, and I have it in a rollerball container. So the thing about this is that, of course, it has to sit for a while. Some recommend 2 weeks, some up to a month for those oils to kind of blend and mature and take on all the properties that they do. So I've tucked them away, and that will actually be just in time for my Yell cardigan cast on in the new year. I haven't purchased my yarn yet. I'm waiting for a friend to send me some of her Shetland Spindrift to cross-reference and then order what I think I need. I am ordering a few more colors so that I can play a little bit. But again, I've enjoyed having that framework color story, and also just the act and the thought process around blending oils and thinking about, you know, this project in another way. Kind of pulls you out of your norm. It's a really helpful problem solver, I think, sometimes to move away from one particular medium and try using another, especially if it's kind of different sensory exercises. So stay tuned. Looking forward to getting that yarn and doing some swatching and playing around and, yeah, wearing my Yell perfume.
what you want with me? Is it just some rest you need? An escape from the world? Oh, then let's escape the world. Am I in the high? Are you bouncing up and down, far above ground? Am I in your car? My soul's twisting and turning.
Hello and welcome to the knitting and fiber portion of the episode. Thank you so much for taking the time to invest in this little creative project of mine. I hope that you find value here. It is enriching to your own creative practice, and I want to make sure that there's a reciprocity, because I do find the support through insights, comments, really that connection and that kind of acknowledgement, a really important piece of my own practice. So thank you. If you are a patron of this podcast, I hold deep gratitude for those that contribute financially and help me to offset production fees, administrative fees, equipment costs, and my time. Thank you so much. I have added a Ko-Fi account if you would like to not be part of a subscription, such as Patreon. And for those that have donated, again, thank you so much. It is, it's astounding to me, but I am, as I said, grateful to all that come my way through subscriptions, and the vlog, etc. So however you can choose to offer some support, I am deeply, deeply appreciative. I thought I would kick off this knitting episode with something new. We have been rallying around a couple projects for a long time. Yes, I'm going to talk about them, but there's this new shiny piece that I'm really excited about that I want to share, and that is a sweater for my nephew, Cameron. He has wanted a sweater knit from fleece from our farm for a very long time. And I have had this brown Icelandic wool, which was spun at a rustic fiber mill from my sheep, Little Pharaoh, in the stash for a long time. And I didn't really have enough for a sweater, but this was very precious to me. But Cameron has definitely deemed himself knit worthy. Originally, if you've been with me, you might remember I was going to hand spin for it, for this sweater, but I decided that this would be a nice alternative and it would move the process along and he would have a sweater. So I had asked him what style he was thinking. I wanted to make sure that if he wanted texture, cables, etc. But he was pretty adamant he wanted an Icelandic yoke in traditional style. And so I cast on Fanar, which is from the Best of Lopi. And I'm using the brown as the main color. And I am using as the contrast colors this kind of light oatmeal and then this Arctic glacial blue. So most of the sweater will be in this dark brown, and then most of the yoke will be in the light with the brown and the blue as accents. So this sweater is knit bottom up, and the sleeves are joined at the yoke. I did fool around with possibly re-engineering, but most of the decrease rows on the chart were color work rows, and so you were increasing and decreasing in color work, and that wasn't going to, I'm sorry, I just saw a duck fly out of a tree, which was very surprising. So as I was saying, there weren't any rest rows in the color work where decreasing could be done. I have re-engineered a number of Marie Wallin sweaters. This is Lovage by Marie Wallin, and I re-engineered to knit it top down. And on these particular charts, there were rows where you were knitting with one color, which enabled you to increase and easily. But as I said, on these charts, there were multiple colors, and it wasn't the color that I was working with in that round, the two colors. And I thought about making extra long floats that I could use to pull up or pull down, etc. So I went through a couple different scenarios, and ultimately I was like, you're putting way too much work into this, just knit it the way it's designed. So that's what I did. I'm knitting the 12, the child size 12. I am knitting this on a US 10.5. I did the hem on a 9, and yeah, so I anticipate that it will go fairly quickly, which is one of the nice things about bulky, which is one of the things that kind of made me not too, I don't know the word to describe it. It's not like I'm down in the dumps or disappointed, but maybe it's a feeling of like slogginess about the sleeves. I definitely think there is a mental experience for me about knitting top down where the sleeves are on hold and the rest of the body is done. But ultimately, it's all gonna work out in the end and there'll be a sweater. So this is the same book that I knit my Zora from, and I am using leftovers from that particular sweater that I did earlier this spring, and I talk about, I think, in the May vlogs sometimes, May and June. So yep, this is on the go for Cameron. I'm super inspired by it. I enjoyed casting on, working with color. I enjoyed, you know, making some headway in progress, admiring the color work, all of those things that kind of go into when we start a project, the planning, the colors, does it work? And seeing it all come together. So I am really enjoying it, and I'm hoping it's a quick win for me. The reason I say that is because I've been a bit stuck, as you know. I've been working on this Frölkengard sweater for just about 3 years now. I did take long breaks from it. I did knit it and rip it out because it was going to be too big. This particular sweater, if you've been with me for a while, you'll have heard about. It is from Koftebokens 2 and 3. I am knitting a pullover. My friend translated it. I re-engineered it to work top down, and I am just about done the last sleeve. And I have been decreasing, and I don't know what it is, but I've had to rip back multiple times because I've messed up the chart, I've picked up incorrectly. It's starting to get to me. I'm starting to resent this a little bit. This started out, I really do love this yarn. This is Hillesvåg Solia in the cognac colorway, and their Vilja base, which is their lamb's wool in the white. And I love the yarns. I absolutely love them. But I have this like energy about me when I'm working on this. And part of it is there's a bit of franticness to get it done. And so I'm trying to temper that, but I am a bit frantic to get it done, which is making me, I think, changing my tension. It's not going around the needle the way I want it to. Everything is just getting me kind of irritated. So I had thought about stepping away from it, but I was like, no, you've come this far. It's just time to put your head down and get it done. And so that's what I've been doing. I did find that casting on that Fanar for Cameron was super helpful in kind of loosening up some of that irritation, and a new outlet for it. And yeah, just overall shifting my outlook on my projects. So the Frölkengard is still going. I'm knitting it on a US 3. I'm so excited to be done. There's nothing more to say about it. The other piece that I've been working on pretty regularly each evening is my crochet project, which I guess is going to be a blanket. I just started crocheting squares, and then I was like, oh, I have to figure out how to put them together. If you have seen my previous vlog in October for patrons, I talk about Cameron's sweater, but I also talk about my crochet and how to pull the crochet squares together. And one of my patrons commented to check out Wool Paint Thread, who has a tutorial on like a contiguous join, and that was really helpful. I found the instructions to be clear. There's a really great visuals. She takes you through each step, so you can do it as you go, but I'm sure there are lots of tutorials out there. I just particularly found Wool Paint Thread to be very helpful. And so I've been working on this pretty consistently each evening. I'll try to do 1 or 2 squares and add it on to the blanket. I'm looking at doing a 10 by 10, and let's see, yeah, here it is. So here's 4 squares I've joined together, and I am working my way along this row. So yeah, again, 10 by 10, so I'll need 100 of these squares. I think the squares are right around 4 1/4, 4 1/2 inches. So do the math. It'll be, you know, an interesting cover. I do like the completing something. I think that's really helpful. And getting into a flow state with some of these granny squares can also be helpful in offsetting some of the frustration I've been feeling with my other project and getting it done. So I've been very grateful to have these in the evening. I've been gravitating towards this because, again, like I said, you complete something, you see it unfolding. for some reason that sweater sleeve is just like, I just get stuck. And so yeah, so the crochet has been a nice outlet and a nice change of pace. And I've also, again, continued to really enjoy being able to work with different yarn bits and pieces and explore some old memories through that. So comfort, which has been much needed these days. Yeah, I've just really rested on this particular project. The other piece that I'm getting ready to do is to cast off my high and low sweater, which is kind of a mashup of the Knitted Kalevala Salalu sweater chart and the high-low sweater by Deborah Purcella from Tidal Yarns. And I am going to be casting off the hem for that. I wanted to explore fit options before I did that to make sure that that crop length was correct. I found a garment that I want to make to kind of go with it and see how those work together. But I think I've landed on this very short hem of about 1.5 inches. So overall it will have a cropped, the sweater will have a cropped feel. And then I can do the sleeves. I've really missed working with Patricia's yarn. And yeah, I really love the texture, the tactile experience, and the visual experience of these colors. They're very moody and fall and kind of cozy. And so I'll be looking forward to getting back to this particular project. I am knitting this on a US 3 and it is in her 4-ply fingering, and you can find Patricia at a number of fiber festivals here in the Northeast of the United States. So that's kind of been the tactile knitting portion. I did pick up a couple books. One of them is the Embroidery on Knits, and this was by Lina, sorry, I'm just getting tired. This is Embroidery on Knits by Lina Publishing by, I'm just going to say this the way I think it said, Judith Gumlik. And this book was really hard to come by. Some of you may have experienced that looking for it. And I was able to find it from a knitting shop in New Jersey. And I didn't get a confirmation that it had shipped, and I emailed her and she said, oh, you know, whatever, it didn't go through and I'm sorry, but it did get in the mail, and it was like they were selling out. So it's kind of a very chaotic state of getting the book. It is a beautiful book. And I can see why it was in high demand. Lina does really beautiful publishing. The feel of the book is inviting. You know, it's got a real presence to it. There's texture. And then of course it's photographed beautifully. The projects in here are, like, as it says, embroidery. And she has a nice section on technique, on tools, wool, and then there are just different projects that feature other knitwear. So it is how to embroider the motif onto a sweater of your choosing, although they do highlight which sweater is featured in the photography. So I'm looking forward to giving this a try. I'm thinking I'd like to try it out, as she recommends knitting a swatch and then embroidering on it, because you do use a hoop, and I think achieving the tension is going to be a little bit tricky, so that you're not pulling your stitches out of whack, but you've got enough that the stitches are going to lay flat and also not distort the sweater when it's finished. So I'm curious to kind of play around with that and see how I do. And most likely I'm gonna try knitting a swatch in Jamieson's 2-ply and see how it all works out. But the pictures are beautiful, the motifs are really stunning and inviting, and I am glad I got the book because I do think it's inspiring, but I don't think you need the book in order to move forward embroidering on your knits, right? And there are some alternatives. I just brought a couple of my favorite embroidery books, which I think can work as well, which is anything by Yumiko Higuchi. This is Simply Stitched, and then this is her Zaka embroidery. I think I've featured both of these on a couple videos, but Lots of beautiful motifs to think about. They also have the books feature a stitch library. She uses a lot of chain stitch to fill, but she does feature stem stitch and outline stitch and French knots. So if you're not able to find Embroidery on Knits, but you're looking for motifs that are similar, I would recommend anything by this particular artist and author. And, you know, even some of the older motifs, if you're adept at kind of creating your own, yeah. So anyway, this book is beautiful. But again, like I said, it is hard to come by, and my recommendations, if you're looking for motifs or inspiration, are any of those Yumiko Higuchi. Once I ordered this book, I kind of got on a book kick, and I'm just feeling festive right now as we move into some of the holiday seasons here in the States and as things get cozy. And so I picked up a couple other books. One is this Nordic Winter, and the other is this I Made This For You, Christmas Gifts and Decorations Crafted with Love. I found both of these in the States, although they are both Finnish publishers, and I'm going to kind of review them a little bit, take you through some of the pages and projects in my November vlog for patrons. So yeah, so feel free to check those out. Lots of, I mean, I have like decided to order all of the bunt pans now because this book has, the photography is so beautiful and there's lots of cake recipes. But yeah, so I've just been, you know, I've just been enjoying books lately, and these books just have a lot going for them, not just in their content, but in the whole sensory experience that you get. So the last thing that finally came in the mail was from Jackie Morris, who is an artist and writer from Britain. I had ordered her unwinding cards and they arrived in the mail. I kind of did a crowdfunding pledge for these. And so these are all just beautiful postcards of her drawings from The Unwinding, which is a beautiful book. I've featured here as well. So you can just use them as postcards. You can use them in your own personal artwork. I'm just such a fan of her art. And then, oops, sorry, that was correct this way. And then I did realize that the English Stamps have created a line of stamps which are reflective of her art, and I can definitely see myself investing in some of those. They're absolutely stunning. So I was super excited to receive these, and I think that this particular kit is available from different publishers, but I think it would make a great little holiday present for a friend. Again, like I said, you can mail them and look at them, dream about them. So beautiful. It was such a treat to have arrive, and I've been enjoying looking through and feeling inspired. So those are just a few things that have come my way. I think I'm just gonna bid you a fond farewell. My light is fading. I gotta get a moose stew on the go. I have a border collie who is very interested in some more frisbee romp time, and I really wanna knit on that sweater. So thank you so much for joining me. I look forward to seeing you next time. Many blessings and fond wishes. Take care.